Today's podcast is sponsored by Sellerboard. And so Sellerboard is a tool that I've been using in my business religiously for over 3 years. And you know how some sellers out there joke about checking their Amazon seller app 100 times per day? Well, I actually check my Sellerboard 100 times per day instead, and here's why. I check it that often because the seller app only tracks your revenue. Seller board actually tracks your sales, your refunds, your profit, all the other financial metrics that you need to know about to know how profitable you are, not just how much revenue you're bringing in. Pricing for seller board starts as low as $15 per month, so it pays for itself literally within a couple of days. And it has so many other useful features too, like an autoresponder to help you get more feedback on your account. It has inventory management tools. It has PPC tools. It can let you know when there's changes to your listings. It can do so many more things. So if you're not yet using Sellerboard in your business, you can give it a try today. You can get a 60-day free trial using code Corey, C-O-R-E-Y. So be sure to check out Sellerboard today, and let's get right into the episode. All right, welcome back to this week's episode of the Amazon Wholesale Podcast. And I've got a special guest with me this week. I've got Ian Kaneshiro with me. He works for SellerSnap, which is an AI-powered repricing tool. It is our repricing tool of choice. We've been using them for over 3 years. It is hands down the best repricing tool on the market. And I'm having him on to talk all things repricers. So if you're a new seller, if you're an intermediate seller, if you're an experienced seller, this episode is going to be super informative for you because everybody should be using a repricer. So Ian, thank you so much for joining me, man. I'm looking forward to chatting here for the next 30 minutes or so.
Absolutely, Corey. Thank you so much for having us on. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned in the intro, Ian, we have been a SellerSnap customer for, I think, over 3 years now. I want to say we started with you guys in early 2020. We've used, I think, 3 to 4 different repricing softwares over the course of our Amazon journey. SellerSnap has by far been the most effective. I've told plenty of people that when we switched from a competitor that I won't name to SellerSnap, our sales literally went up 10 to 15% overnight as soon as we enabled repricing with SellerSnap. And you didn't pay me to say that. I'm giving you guys my honest feedback. And it's a great tool, right? So we're going to talk all things repricing, why sellers should use one, which one they should choose, whether they choose SellerSnap or not, and just the ins and outs of repricing because it's a critical part of an Amazon business, especially one that deals in arbitrage or wholesale. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. You know, a repricing tool is something that runs 24/7. There's no human on the planet that can do that. So when you can find automations like that, it's super, super important for businesses.
For sure. And so a recommendation that I've always made. So if you're like a brand new seller, right? You've never, or you're just starting to sell on Amazon. And let's say that your catalog is up to maybe 10 SKUs, right? I think if you're under 10 SKUs, it's really not 100% necessary to have a repricer. You can be dangerous enough on your own, repricing your own inventory throughout the day with 10 SKUs or less. But really, once you're above that 10 SKU threshold, that's when it really makes sense to get a repricer because the time that you're spending repricing your own inventory throughout the day, if you just use the repricer to do that instead and then dedicated that time to sourcing, you're going to make a lot more money from the sourcing and you're going to save a lot of money in the time saved by using a repricer. So I think that can kind of lead us into our first question in the sense of like, when does it make sense for someone to use a repricer like SellerSnap, right? And I think it's fair to say that SellerSnap is more of a premium tool. It's definitely not an entry-level repricer for brand new sellers, but when does SellerSnap make sense for a particular Amazon seller and who does it make sense for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you really hit the nail on the head in terms of really trying to understand how much time does it take me on a regular basis to reprice my items. And like it might be really easy to go in and say, you need to start repricing after you have X number of items or you have X amount of revenue. But it's not necessarily so cut and dry. I like to think about it in how much time does it take me, if I were a business owner to complete this certain task before I essentially outsource this new activity, right?
Sure.
Which is in this case repricing. But if we are going to kind of dive into hard and fast numbers, the way that SellerSnap works is that we have a few different repricing tiers. Our most popular tiers are standard tier, which starts at $500 a month. We have our premium tier, which is for larger sellers who have more Amazon accounts. If you're selling in North America and EU, you might need the premium version, and that starts at 800. But then below the 500, we have our accelerator program. And so generally this question is geared towards the type of sellers who would be more towards our accelerator program, where we are looking at a balance of that $500 program that caters up to 15,000 listings or 50,000 listings within SellerSnap, and then the accelerator has a cap of 1,000. And so what we tried to do was we tried to take this our standard repricing model and allow smaller growing sellers a platform to jump into kind of the big leagues, because all the sellers that you're going to be competing up against in Amazon, or are the bigger sellers, I should say, are using premium repricing tools, whether it's us or one of our competitors.
Right.
You know, you use it, and I'm sure a lot of your competitors use, you know, these high-end tools. And so as a growing seller, it becomes really difficult, really daunting to come in with, you know, I'm thinking of like when I was a kid, I had like a tool set that I used to help my dad with, but it was like a plastic hammer. Like,
Yeah.
how am I supposed to work with that? Right. So I want to be able to come in and have something that actually works and can help me scale. And so oftentimes where we cap our accelerator program is at 1,000 listings and making no more than $25,000 a month in sales. And so the reason why we do that is because we have to balance it. We don't want to, like, full transparency, cannibalize our sales with our standard model. But we found that this is a really fair pricing point and pricing model that we can give to sellers, and we guarantee that price of $250 a month for the first 6 months of your time with SellerSnap. And if you don't happen to break that threshold after the 6 months, we do typically extend that offer until you do break that threshold.
And it's a great offer too. So for people in the audience that aren't familiar with, I guess, our business history, so we actually started with the accelerator program. It was, yeah, like I said, late 2019, early 2020, somewhere around that time, because somebody recommended SellerSnap to us. And I mean, I think a lot of people listening might get sticker shock at that price point, right? $500 per month for repricer, they might think that's crazy. But again, when you think about the time saved and the fact that it'll increase, at least it increased our sales about 10 to 15% overnight, it pays for itself literally in 2 days, right? So what we did, our particular path, is we started with the accelerator program. And I think within 3 months, we had scaled our sales to a point where, like you said, we kind of, I guess, scaled out of the accelerator program. And at that point, the value in SellerSnap was it was so obvious that it was a no-brainer, right? 250 to 500, take my money. It was the sales were there, the ROI was there. It was a very obvious ROI for us.
Yeah, and I think the thing that it's important to remember during these times is that, you know, $500 a month, and it can seem like a heavy price to pay, but oftentimes people are paying, you know, employees to do this thing manually, which they can't do 24/7, or they're taking up their own time. And really, at the end of the day, what's $500 a month? It's, you know, $16 a day.
That's a good way to look at it. It's a good way to look at it.
And so, like, when you're talking about when is the right time to move into a specific, you know, into one of our specific pricing tiers, $16 a day. If you're selling 16 units a day and we can make you an extra dollar on each unit, then you paid for the platform, right? If you're making, you know, if you're doing 32 items a day and you're making an extra 50 cents, you know, you paid for the platform, and so on and so forth. So the idea is that, you know, for really professional sellers, and like, it's super important to remember that, like, a lot of times sellers are moving from these kind of side hustle, like getting started launch pads, to these really big professional businesses. For business, a SaaS spend like this is makes a lot of sense. And so and this doesn't go for SellerSnap, it kind of goes beyond SellerSnap, but when you're talking about, you know, software as a solution or a SaaS spend, you need to look at, like, what is the potential, what is the time saved against, like, the actual bottom line. And then you can make those decisions, rather than, you know, saying at the end of every month, this solution takes this much money. You have to remember, how much money is it making me, or how much time is it saving me? Is it allowing me to do the extra things I need to do?
Right. So basically you need to look at the ROI on both time saved and money made. And so I think that's a lot of things, especially newer sellers and maybe more inexperienced sellers. They just see the price tag and they say, oh, X amount per month, as opposed to looking at the actual ROI. And so another thing that that SellerSnap does that I love about the program is that not only will it make you more sales, it certainly did in our experience, it'll make you more sales at higher price points. So I know that in our business, we don't even set any crazy rules, right? There's a lot of repricers out there that have rules-based repricing. It's like price up if X, price down if Y. SellerSnap, while it gives you the option to do that, it's an AI-based algorithm, which pretty much does the repricing on its own. At least in our business, we set our minimum price, which is our floor price. We set our maximum price, which is a realistic max price that we think we could sell a product at without killing the demand, without suppressing the buy box. And then we just let SellerSnap do its thing, right? The AI will essentially price in between those two numbers to make us the most sales at the highest price point. So we routinely make sales at higher prices in the buy box. So for example, we've got a product that routinely sells at about $32. That's kind of where the buy box sits. And we'll make frequent sales at $33, $34, sometimes as high as $35. So how is it that SellerSnap can make us those sales higher than the buy box, right? Because most repricers, what they do is they drive down the buy box price. We're making sales above the buy box price.
Right. So that's a great question, Corey. Really where that lies is it lies in the base of our AI system. Essentially, no two AIs are built the same. How ours is built is that we aim, like you said, to get the buy box at the highest possible price. And the way that we do this is by avoiding price wars. And so a really easy way to conceptualize this is, let's say we have two competitors on a listing, competitor A and competitor B. Well, oftentimes what we see with these competitors is that they're using a rule-based system that says, maybe undercut my lowest competitor by a penny. So if you're at $32, they're at $31.99, which means, with these systems, you might have to go to $31.98, and you guys keep undercutting
until
it's
a price war. Yeah,
it's a price war, and we bottom out that price. What SellerSnap does is that we see that this competitor is attached to our price. We can detect that they're using a rule which is undercut by a penny. So what we'll do is we will then, knowing that this is happening, we'll raise that price. So let's say from 32, we'll go to 33.50. And so we choose 33.50 because we know that that competitor is going to attach to our price, but they're only going to go up because they also have a max price probably, right? So they'll come up with us to 32.50 or 32.49 in this scenario. We'll undercut them, let them undercut us, and we'll keep on doing this until the repricer thinks that the price got too low, and then we'll move back up in price, kind of restarting that cycle where we are exchanging blows with our competitor, getting the buy box at about 50%, getting about 50% share. And during this time, it's the same share that we would be getting if we were exchanging blows with them at the low end of our min-max rate.
Right. That makes sense.
But because we're doing at the higher point, we're getting the same result in terms of buy box share, but we're capturing those sales at that higher price point.
That makes perfect sense to me. And I love how within the SellerSnap dashboard, it actually has a column that you can filter on or off to show you the percentage of the buy box that you've held over the last 24 hours. So that's something that, just out of curiosity, I love taking a look at. It's like, dang, the buy box has been sitting at 35. We're routinely making sales at 37. So my initial thought would be like, well, we can't be getting that much of the buy box, right? We must be getting lucky somewhere. We must be like in a regional buy box somewhere, some random part of the country. But when I look at that column in SellerSnap, it's like, wow, we've owned the buy box for, let's say, 30-40% of the last 24 hours at this higher price point, and yet the competitor who's undercutting us, they're not dragging the total buy box price down. So it's really cool to see that data kind of in action, and also the fact that, like you said, we're just making more sales at higher prices. So that's a really cool feature.
Yeah, I think that that's a really great point to think about. That sellers, as you mature in your Amazon businesses, is that you start to be more data centric. And one of the things that's really great about SellerSnap, and I'm sure is that our data can be really robust, but also with the 70 or 80 columns of data that we provide for each individual listing, it can be really overwhelming, especially when you're first jumping in. So it's really important to be kind of laser focused, pick the ones that are important to you and go off that. But then to go off what you're saying is that we also have columns that is, your buy box share, the average buy box share, and your average win price. And so being able to understand those can be super important for making sure that your items are competitive. Because if your average if you see that your average win price is higher than the average buy box price, we know that we're also winning the buy box
At a higher price.
at a higher price.
Right.
So it's there's a lot of ways that you can kind of validate that something is working for you or not, because it is safe to say that there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of Amazon sellers out there, millions of products, that it's important to find the right solution for you. So being able to make logical decisions based on data will really help sellers understand what is the right tool for them at this specific point in their Amazon journey.
Yep, for sure. And yeah, that is a metric that I like to look at more so just for fun, but it's like, what is the average buy box price, across the listing? And then what's the average price point that we're winning the buy box at, right? Like I said, a lot of times our average win price is higher than the average buy box price. And so that right there, like that can quantify the ROI of SellerSnap. It's like, all right, let's say, for example, and again, just to kind of quantify the benefit here, if let's say we're winning the buy box at an average of $2 more than the traditional buy box price, and let's say we're selling 20 units per day of that product, that's what, $40 an additional margin that we would be making as a result of using SellerSnap, and that's on one product, right? And so you said at $500 a month, that's costing you $16 per day, and that example that I just made, basically I'm paying 16 to make 40. Right. And that's just one product. You can extrapolate that out across your catalog. So just to kind of quantify it for the people here that are listening, that's the way that I look at these decisions, especially when it comes to pricey software solutions. Like that's the ROI right there, cut and dry.
Amen. I got nothing to add to that.
Nice. So there's another thing I want to touch on as far as the way that we use SellerSnap, right? And listen, I think there are other repricers that can do this. In fact, I'm pretty sure other repricers can do this, but I believe SellerSnap has this as a built-in preset, and it's called the yo-yo method, right? So this is something that I know for a fact has amplified our margin significantly when we instituted this. So the way we have SellerSnap set up is, so we've got our minimum price set for every ASIN, and we've got our maximum price set for every ASIN. And so I think it's really important that people set a realistic maximum price, because what a lot of sellers do is when they go to set their max price, they might set it at like $99 or $999, right? Just some random max price. When in reality, if the repricer prices to that price, which a lot of times it does, like if you're the only seller on that listing, typically you're going to revert to your max price. Well, if that max price is too high, then either the buy box is going to get suppressed or it's just going to kill the sales rank, right? A lot of times people aren't going to buy something if it's just too expensive. So the key, first of all, for this method is setting a realistic maximum price. And the way that we like to do that is I like to look at the Keepa graph of the previous year of that product. And if that Keepa graph, basically I like to see like what is the highest price that this product has been without killing the sales rank in the last year. That's what I like to set my max price to. And so to go back to the yo-yo method, what this method does is I think we have it set up to where every 3 hours, SellerSnap automatically prices up to our max, right? So let's say our max is $40 and let's say the buy box is at 25. So normally it'd be at 25. Every 3 hours, SellerSnap will price us at 40. It'll hold us at 40 for 20 minutes. And then after 20 minutes, it'll just revert back to the AI algorithm and price us back around that $25 price point. And what we found is that it's only holding us at our max for 20 minutes every 3 hours, but we might make 1, 2, sometimes 3 sales per day at our max price. Like that happens all the time on a lot of the different products we carry. So again, that just goes to show that if you can squeeze an extra $5, $10, $15 in profit per sale out of a product, and you can do that 1, 2, 3 times per day per product, that's huge boost to your margin. And like I said, it's called the yo-yo method. And SellerSnap has a preset where you can pretty much just like one click set that up. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the yo-yo method and setting your max price is a strategy that it's important to start somewhere. Like it's definitely a strategy, but then you should refine for your businesses and your business and your specific items. And because like you said, the max price is super important, because if your repricer goes to max, you could you mentioned that you could get stranded, you could not make sale, or sorry, you could get suppressed and you could not make sales, but you could also get stranded. And when you get stranded, you're definitely not making sales. So max price is super important. And which one of the reasons that or one of the things that I suggest, that if you don't have a strategy like yourself, Corey, to set those max prices, we also have a tool that we call DMP, or dynamic max price, where we will set the max price for you based on, a lot of the similar things that you had mentioned. We don't use Keepa data, but we use our own data. And so, for example, we're looking at, the current buy box share, or the current buy box price, the highest recent buy box price, the highest competitor on the listing, and things like that, where we will set that max price for you, and we'll go above it. So for you, your strategy is, let's see if we can grab a couple of sales at our max price, which works for you and can help increase those margins that way. For people that aren't as in tune with their inventory at that moment, or you're not in tune with your inventory just yet, you can use our DMP to make sure that you are not shooting yourself in the foot and going stranded and taking away opportunities for sales. And that's super, super important.
Yeah, and that dynamic, sorry to cut you off, but that dynamic max price feature, that's been helpful for us. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll have it default to a DMP. So anytime we add a new product to our inventory, it'll automatically, like you said, add that max price automatically based on that historical data. And then sometimes what we'll do is we'll go in and sometimes we'll check the max price that SellerSnap assigns. And most of the time it looks good, but sometimes we'll tweak it, right? We might have to raise it by 20%. We might have to lower it by 20%. No algorithm is going to be perfect, but especially for newer sellers that should be focused on sourcing, buying, just really focus on growing their business, having it default to that dynamic max price can save you a lot of time, because when you're buying a lot of products, when you're constantly adding new products to your inventory, it can take some time to go in and manually add a super detailed, accurate max price to your listing every day, right? Or to your new listings, I guess.
Most definitely. And it's a struggle, because it's hard to know where to start and stop. And that also goes to, like, anytime that you're going to customize anything, especially on SellerSnap, we do provide, like, as you mentioned, we do provide presets where sellers can customize the repricing settings and insert things like yo-yos. And the one thing that I will mention for anyone who is new to SellerSnap is that I usually suggest use the AI out of the box and see how that works for you before we make adjustments. And the reason why I say that is because we work with sellers all day, every day. And one of the things that we see commonly is sellers that will listen to something like this, say, I love this, I want to do a yo-yo, and then go in and do something that is less than ideal, I should say, and really doesn't give SellerSnap the fair test, the fair trial that you need to understand if it's the right fit for your store. And so the one example for the yo-yo is the 20 minutes at max every 3 hours. I think is a good cadence. I think 20 minutes is like the absolute minimum that you should be staying at your max price for. Right. And I usually say 25 to 30 personally, because what ends up happening is that one of the reasons why that you might want to use a yo-yo is to also give a chance for your competitors to come up. So the reason why you're using the yo-yo is so you can capture some sales at your max price. But another strategy would be to use the yo-yo to bring those competitors up. And if the competitor is using a repricer that is not repricing as fast, so is not repricing in that 20-minute interval, then you will never get them to move up. And then you're moving yourself out of buy box contention for no reason, for no benefit. And so to kind of sum it all up, my suggestion is, when you start using SellerSnap, use the AI out of the box. If you have questions, we have an amazing customer success and support team who are experts in this and can help in individual scenarios to give you suggestions for those presets, for those repricing settings, for each individual use case. And I think that is something that really separates us from a lot of our competitors, that we really aim to bridge that gap between people and technology. And we want to provide our insights, our expertise to each and every one of our users.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that service 100%, because we had been a customer for a while and we were really just trying to figure out, like, how can we better leverage SellerSnap just to have stronger pricing, right? So we reached out, I think it was Danielle that we reached out to, and she got on a call with me for 45 minutes or an hour, obviously no additional charge or anything like that, and just helped me set up our preset, because we were really trying to set a liquidation preset, one that made sense. So like for products where it's like, listen, we just got to get our money back and move on. She sat down and helped us craft a very tailored, very specific liquidation preset that we've been using for months now, right? So anytime we need to liquidate a product, we literally one click, choose that preset that she helped us set up, and it just does its thing, right? And we sell through pretty quickly, get our money back, and move on. So the support has been fantastic, and yeah, you can tell that you guys really, like, the team wants to help sellers succeed, right? You want to keep churn to a minimum.
Most definitely. And I think that, one of the things that's important for anyone using SellerSnap to remember is that, or that I tell people, it's like, don't suffer in silence. Like, our team is here to help. There's no reason, sometimes sellers are like, this has been going on for months. I'm like, for months, where have you been? You have
why didn't you say something?
Yeah, you have my phone number. Like, and then oftentimes it can be like a user error, and I'll go in and I'll see a preset, and I'm like, you didn't put the negative sign, or, or this is in the wrong order. And so I think like the moral of the story is, when you're in, and this is for anything, when you're in business, if something is hurting your business, don't sit on it.
Right.
Don't just let it happen. You need to be, it's really great to be proactive, and sometimes being reactive are the things that are going to make big changes. So you see something that's wrong, whether it's SellerSnap or anything else, be reactive, go and troubleshoot, figure out what's wrong. And if you can't on your own, ask for help.
Completely agree. And so you had some great points as far as repricing against competitors and pulling your competitor's price up to yours. And it's so funny because on certain listings, it's so obvious to me who's using a good repricer and who isn't, because there's some listings where we are just dominating the buy box at a higher price point than our competitors, and we're getting like 40, 50, 60% of the buy box. It's very clear to me who's using a tool like SellerSnap and who's using maybe a cheaper or just not as powerful of a repricer. So again, the difference is clear. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I think it's like a how can I put this? It's like a rite of passage when you start really upgrading your technology game, because as I mentioned, anyone listening to this, if you're brand new and you just started listing things on Amazon and you end up on the same listing as Corey, there are a lot of things that are going to be against you in those scenarios. For example, Corey has really high scores within Amazon in his performance indicators, has a lot of reviews, has been doing this for a lot of time, is really deep in inventory. And so each one of those things is going to be against you when you first start out. And so anytime that you can find, a stepping stone, a lifeline to get a leg up on your competition is going to be super important.
Absolutely. And another way that we've leveraged SellerSnap too. So we actually, obviously we use SellerSnap for our US marketplace, right? But we also sell via the NARF program in Canada and Mexico. And so we've actually upgraded our SellerSnap subscription to where we have repricing enabled in both the Mexico and Canada marketplace. And now, those marketplaces are like 2% of our sales compared to the US. But every 2 weeks when we get paid out by Canada and Mexico, same as we get paid out by the US, it's an extra couple $1,000s that,
icing on the cake.
Yeah, exactly. And we would have made some sales in those marketplaces had we not been repricing, but it's such a simple switch we pretty much flip a switch, enable repricing in those marketplaces. The currency converts to the currency in those marketplaces. And like you said, we get paid out every 2 weeks on those marketplaces, same as we do in the US. So that's another option to consider, especially if you're selling products that, maybe they make a couple of sales here and there via the NARF program. Repricing in those marketplaces is just going to double, triple, sometimes 5, 10x your sales, depending on the type of product. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is using a repricer in multiple marketplaces.
And Amazon has all kinds of programs like this, where they'll fulfill your items in different areas where your competitors might not. And that is often just a switch in your Seller Central. One of the big ones that Amazon's doing right now, we've been working on with Amazon for like the past 18 months, maybe more, is their business program. And so if you can get enrolled in their business program and you're deep enough in inventory, you can access customers that might not normally buy your products, but then they'll buy it in bulk. And
Mm-hmm.
so, everybody, and so there's all kinds of organizations and agencies on there, nonprofits, for-profits, schools, hospitals, hotels, and other hospitality
We make
organizations that are
business sales all the time. Like
all the
on your
time.
seller app, it'll tell you it's like business customer, right? I mean, I'd say probably 5 to 10, possibly even up to 10% of our sales are to business customers. They're not always huge quantities, but they're to business customers. And that leads me to believe that if we were enrolled in the business program and able to, I guess, offer those products in bulk at possibly a discounted price, that could be 10, 15% of our sales. Who knows? And as far as I understand it, is SellerSnap's the only repricer on the market as of today that will reprice, that offers business repricing. Is that correct?
That offers AI business repricing. So there's a lot
Got
of
it.
repricers on the market that offer business repricing, but we're the first one to offer AI business repricing, and specifically reprice based off of the tiers as well. So the way that business pricing works is that you can tell Amazon that if somebody buys one water bottle, it costs $10, but if they buy 2 water bottles, I'll give a 5% discount. If they buy 6 water bottles, I'll give a 10% discount, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But then, so then that means that there's basically a buy box for each one of those tiers. And
Mm-hmm.
so we've been working with Amazon for the past year and a half in order to bring in that data through Amazon's new SP API, which they dropped about that time ago, in order to pull in that data and make leverage our AI repricer in order to make those repricing decisions and win the buy box at those specific tiers. And so, again, like you said, we are the first repricer on the market to offer an AI solution for business repricing. So our AI B2B repricer is the first. And for anyone who is a current SellerSnap user, it's no additional cost, and you can check it out as soon as you're enrolled with Amazon Business.
Interesting. Yeah, the Amazon's business to business program is something that we definitely need to look into. I think it's more of a blue ocean right now, because I think a lot of sellers I bet a lot of sellers don't know it exists, but also a lot of sellers are not being competitive in that field, right? Just because a seller's enrolled doesn't mean that they're pricing competitively, and having an asset like SellerSnap for that program, I think could help big time for sure.
Absolutely. And I think just having being available on Amazon Business even without the repricer can be super helpful. But with the repricer, it's even more helpful. So I'll give you a quick example. Is that we had a customer that was selling a kind of a commercial cleaning product, think of like a 409 or something along those
Mm-hmm.
lines. And there is a few other competitors on the listing. And so it made 3 of them that were competing for the buy box. So he was getting his fair share of buy box on the B2C side, getting about 33%. And they were all at the same price. And once he turned on SellerSnap with the AI B2B repricer, what ended up happening is, because his competitors weren't using B2B, we were able to literally undercut the B2C price by a penny, because if there's no B2B offer on a listing, it reverts to the lowest
Just reverts to
B2C price.
B2C. Yeah.
The repricer was able to undercut that lowest competitor or those competitors by a penny. And all of a sudden, he is dominating the B2B sales or the B2B buy box, and it increases sales. And so
Right.
was it huge numbers of sales? Was it, hundreds of thousands of sales a day? No. But, if I remember correctly, this was already, earlier this year, it was 5 to 6 sales a day, times 30 days, times 365 days a year. And that's one product.
Right.
And
And that
so
adds up.
it adds up. And all these things that you're doing, whether it's NARF, whether it's B2B, every time you can capture those additional sales, it's additional revenue. And if you can be consistent every single day, it adds up and really helps your bottom line at the end of the year.
It sure can. No, like you said, a lot of those things, they add up, and the ROI is clear, man. So Ian, man, let's get going here. But before we get going, before we can tell people where they can find you guys, if you are interested in checking out SellerSnap for yourself, I have a discount code for you. So if you want to take, I believe it's 10% off, or sorry, I believe it's 15% off your first 3 months of Seller Snap, you can use the code BRANDROCKET. And like I said, that'll give you 15% off your first 3 months. I'll get a small kickback for it. And Ian, where can people find out more about you, man? I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah. If you want to find a little bit more about SellerSnap, you can always come to sellersnap.io. I also host a podcast called Not Another Ecom Podcast. We just launched it, so by the time that this goes live, we'll probably have a couple episodes under our belt. So you can check us out on Spotify or any other place that you get podcasts. And if you want to reach me directly, you can hit me up on Instagram, LinkedIn, or email me at ian@sellersnap.io.
Definitely check out his podcast. I was a guest on there. We had a great time. We talked wholesale. We talked virtual assistants. We talked reaching out to suppliers. So that's a great listen as well. Ian, thank you so much for joining me, guys. If you want to learn more from me, if you want to follow me closer, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Ganem Corey on Twitter, and I'm at Corey Ganem on every other platform: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. So follow me there. Hit up Ian, and thank you so much for joining me, man.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks for having me.